The double clap signifies the start of an episode. And before we begin, I just wanted to make one point. Luke, I don't know if you've noticed this, but I do feel like my pants have been increasingly getting shorter and shorter. They're turning into capris almost. So I apologize if that's distracting during this
I thought it
next
was
hour.
a choice.
It kind of is a choice. I have no other options. Anyway, before I introduce our guest to the right, coincidentally, another New England guy. Who's in the room? You're getting better at that. And who's producing the episode today? Armand. Great guy. And Luke, thank you for setting this one up, man. Appreciate it. You hustled and you got it done. You made the calls. You were the Ari Gold. Speaking of which, I think I saw one of the leads from Entourage this weekend, which was pretty cool.
Really?
You a fan of the show?
I mean, it's off the air. You're aware of that, right? It's like, I saw it back in the day.
I am.
I liked it. I mean, I thought it was fun. I didn't think it was any sort of deep storytelling, but it was fun. Had like a wish fulfillment component to it.
So you really weren't feeling that show?
No, man. I mean, look, it wasn't like deep art, but I enjoyed it. I mean, there's a lot of haters. I thought it was fun. You know?
When you vet, has your palate, like your taste, changed over time since making your own film?
Yeah, I mean, look, my background's in theater. I started in theater, and I think theater sort of dictated a lot in terms of what I like and expect out of writing and acting. And I think making a film, to your point, like made me more focused on, one, how hard it is to make a movie, and good for you if you make one. Like, that's awesome. But it's actually made me more, I find, like empathetic and a little bit more able to enjoy things and not just pick them apart, to find elements, scenes, camera moves and shit that I just appreciate. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
On my right, camera left, I have John Pollono. I said that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Thanks for coming, man.
All right,
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Most people from New England is Polano, but Pollono is the correct pronunciation,
Okay,
so I
cool.
appreciate you.
Now, Luke said, dude, you got to watch Small Engine Repair. It took me 2 full days to watch the whole thing just because I'm a little bit scatterbrained.
Sure.
But I was like, this has got to be the first movie I know of that like really captures New Hampshire. Was there any other movie before that?
Saw a movie when I was like in high school called Where the Rivers Flow North with Rip Torn. That was like a period piece in New Hampshire. And then there's like Ordinary People, shit like that. But this is, I don't know of anything that really did the working class New Hampshire thing or New England thing. So, you've seen some theater for sure that did, but yeah, I couldn't think of movies.
Okay.
Which was fun.
So there were plays before yours.
I mean, nothing exactly like that, but I think like neighborhood guys like that. I mean, there have been stuff like that. But I don't think I ever saw anything from New Hampshire that was, that takes place in New Hampshire that was quite like that. So nothing to sort of build off of.
Okay. Understood. So it was uncharted waters.
It was uncharted waters. Yeah.
I thought it was awesome, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
It was great.
Yeah.
I think my favorite part was, you were like falling onto the bed, hooking up with the lady, and like you fell on like 2 toys, and you had to like, move the toys out.
Right.
I was dying. You know that scene? I was dying laughing.
That's my wife in that role.
Is that?
Yeah. So I wrote a play called Lost Girls, which came out after Small Engine Repair. It's not quite a thriller. It's more of a drama, but it's like the female sort of thematic version of that, and she played the lead in that, who is sort of like a flip side of the Frank character. So she had the accent, she had the world. So then when I was making the movie and opening the world up of the play, I wrote that role for her. And that was sort of like that's the reality of it. It's like, if you have kids and you start dating again, it's like, that's just what it was. So I wanted to have a moment that was funny, but like Frank's story, which is his point of view, is like, it's kind of heartbreaking, it's just raw and emotional and real. And that's what it is. You're single and you don't have time to clean up, and she's got wine in her room. She's got all this. So it was like, sort of the inverse of the sort of hot and sexy hookup that you have when you're single, which I thought was like more real and more tragic, sort of the way the story goes, where it's like, he can't really handle it.
Now, yeah, I was going to say, did you grow up with a single mother, or is that something you just specifically put
No, I
in
mean,
the role?
I have several single mothers in my family.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of them.
Understood.
Yeah.
I grew up with a single mom.
Yeah, I'm a big, it's, look, man, I love single moms. It's my sister. Let's see. 2/3 of my sisters are single moms.
Really?
Yeah.
2 out of 3.
2 out of 3.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, man. So Truthfully, I don't know a whole lot about New Hampshire. I don't, but I am familiar with the Concord quarries.
Yes.
Have you ever jumped off those things?
I have. I
But I
have.
believe they're closed in via the state prison now. Or am I crazy?
I don't know, man. This was like in the '90s when I was like, a teenager. That's the last time I sort of did that.
Okay. So tell me about growing up in New Hampshire.
Let's see. It was a simpler time. No, man. I listen. It's funny you say that. I was just talking about that the other day. I feel like I'm fortunate. And you guys are, babies, but you're old enough to have grown up without a fucking cell phone glued to your hand. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you did shit when you went outside and you got into trouble and you like sort of seized the world and you were bored. I mean, I think one of the best gifts New Hampshire gave me in terms of what I do today was boring the shit out of me. Meant often because you have to use your imagination and you have to dream and you have to create stories and ideas in your head. But I mean, look, I thought New Hampshire's, I had a good time growing up there in terms of like the outdoorsy shit you could do.
A lot of hiking, skiing.
Yeah, we skied a lot, fished, just outdoors all the time. You'd wake up in the morning, you get on your bike and you're outside all day and then you come back. It wasn't the harder time I had was when I got older and I started to want to do something creative with my life. And there was I didn't know anybody who did. And it was not, especially where I grew up, there was not that environment of sort of, at least that I had given to me, an outlet or support. Didn't know anybody who did it.
Local theater though, right?
I was unaware of it if there was, I mean, I don't even remember a drama department in my high school. Maybe there was. I had been to one play in all of my entire time in New Hampshire. Saw like Dracula with the Peterborough Players, which was just kind of embarrassed me when I first saw it because I was uncomfortable with myself. And I was just like, oh my God, they're like fake lines. Is he looking at me or whatever? I wasn't comfortable. Dude, I spent a large part of my life gaining the courage to admit that I was an artist, that I wanted to do that. And I think I was like uncomfortable seeing people do what they were passionate about. And I was like, I didn't know how to do that. It was in me. I just didn't know how to do it. So I wrote stories. I did all this shit. I did it in secret. I didn't want anybody to know.
So what was like your big first step? Like, did you joined a theater group or?
Well, it happened late. I mean, when I was really young, when I was in third grade, I won this like young authors like award.
So you've always had the sauce.
No, man,
You've always been the chosen one.
No, I wasn't. It's funny though you say that because like I just took a book I liked in the library and I almost plagiarized the whole thing. I just didn't get it. It was about a raccoon and I remember I just rewrote it. Like instead of one raccoon, minus two raccoons, and I did all this shit. But I drew pictures and I just did not get the concept. And then I'm accepting an award in like Concord, and then. But I don't know how instrumental that was, but I was like, oh, this is cool. You get attention for something. But it kind of worked with the way my brain was wired. Like, I just know I'd be so bored in class and I'd look out the window and I'd think of scenarios like, what if an earthquake happened or what if a dragon came or, Russians invaded or whatever, shit like that. You know what I mean? Just kind of creating all these scenarios, the imagination. And then I I pursued when I was in high school, I had a couple of really good creative writing teachers who really pushed me and they read it. I remember once it's so funny, man, you have these little moments. I had this teacher, Miss Giddings, who was super sweet. Even though I did a report on sharks and she's like, it was beautifully written, but I'm giving you a B because sharks are mammals. And I was like, they're not like I had to bring the encyclopedia and be like, no, sharks are fucking fish. Like, read it right there. But other than that, she was very, very sweet. And I remember I wrote an essay and she read it in front of class. And I literally felt like I was lifting off of my chair. I was like floating. I was having an out of body experience. And I was like, this is what I just like, this is incredible. It's who I am. You know what I mean? It just took me a long time to get there. When I went to UNH, it was like the in-state tuition, It was like on school on sale. That's all we could afford. All I could afford.
You were in Williamson.
I was in Williamson Hall.
How was that?
It was cool, man. It was a good time. I wasted a lot of fucking time, and I took, you took classes. I had some really great teachers there, a couple of them there, but it was like they just would be like, you got to do this, you got to do this. I needed so much convincing to do what I knew I wanted to do. You know what I mean? Like rationalizations, because I was too much of a pussy to do it. I was terrified of failing, of being vulnerable, of all that stuff.
I think that's natural for anyone who wants to do something. They have no model, though.
No, that's exactly it. No model. No model for success.
You didn't think it was real?
No, it wasn't real. It felt indulgent. It felt ridiculous. I was plagued, and I think it's somewhat of a New England thing where it's like, why do you think you're better than us? Like, why do you think you can do this?
But
You
did
know what I
that
mean?
give you an edge when you came out here?
It did. Well, it's funny, all the shit that you're trying to, I was like, I remember seeing Boys in the Hood when I was like in high school and being like, oh my God, like dwarfed by it. Cause I was like, I have no life comparison to that. What am I doing? Like, I'm not John Singleton. Like, I don't have that shit. And then,
I was driving dirt bikes up in New Hampshire.
well, but that's the thing is it takes some time, or it took me some time to realize that no one can tell a story the way you can. Your life is just as epic and important as anyone else's, your point of view and all that. But I was always like, it's just worthless. There's nothing there. And then I went to an exchange to NYU to take a sight and sound class. It was like,
How old are you at this point?
I was like just turned 21.
Okay.
And in New York, and I'd been in New York. Well, I was born in New York actually when I was really little. That's where my parents met. My dad was raised there. It was like in our blood, but I never been there alone. And it was like, for the first time, I was sort of thrust around people who loved film. I mean, I loved film, but like the guys I grew up with would talk about movies for maybe 10 minutes and then they checked out. Like you know what I mean? You find a kindred spirit and you can't do it by yourself. So first time I ever had a community, and it was like super diverse, man. Like people from all over the world, every shape, size, color, sexual orientation. It was like I'd never been exposed to anything like that. And I was like, this is incredible. All unified under like a love of the film. Doesn't mean they were good filmmakers. One of the biggest early revelations I had was like, I didn't realize how little money my family had until I was around like real rich people. And I was like, oh shit, that's what's rich. Like I thought rich was like the fucking dude whose parents were dentists and he had like an eye rock. You know what I mean? I'm like, Jesus, that's wealth right there. But then you meet people and they have such a degree of money. And, you know, quite frankly, that was intimidating too, because I was like, filmmaking and writing and all that shit, it's not an easy working class endeavor, you know? Most people who pursue that have a huge cushion. And that was intimidating too, because I was like, well, how do I do this and then pay the
But that
bills?
must have made you feel like a savage when you came out here, because you're like, yo, I'm like super disadvantaged. I'm still playing the same game you are.
I don't think I was smart enough to figure that out,
Okay.
that you are. I was more like, you know, man, I made the mistake a lot trying to attach myself to people who saw me the way I wanted to see myself, not having that confidence. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I went to an acting conservatory and we started to study theater. And theater was the big, I mean,
Where's the conservatory out here?
yeah, it was Howard Fine Acting Studio is what it was. And I studied under this woman, Laura Gardner, for years. And it was the first, now NYU had a cool community, but it was everybody like, yeah, I'm going to make my version of Goodfellas and I'm going to make Reservoir Dogs. It was all like derivative movies, which is cool. I love movies too, but and I wrote a lot of shitty screenplays, and the reason they were is because they were derivative of films. They were the experience I was tapping was other movies. And then when I got to that conservatory, you start studying theater, and you're like, theater pulls from your soul, and it doesn't have to be, you know, melodramatic. It doesn't have to be. It just has to be truthful. It has to be real. In the moment. And it was studying those scenes and doing all that stuff that I first found a community of other actors, directors. And I started writing like monologues for class, people in class. They would do them for exercises, and you have that instant feedback. I'd start writing one-act plays they would do in class. We formed a theater company. That's how I actually met my wife. We started producing our shit, raising money, going out there, moving shit around. And I was writing, and I had it for an audience. So as opposed to writing derivative screenplays that sat on some executive's desk for, a year and a half, I wrote plays and I said, fuck it, I'm just going to do it. And then the audience starts telling you what your voice is. You see instantly what works and what doesn't, both as a writer and as a performer and all that. And that feedback, that was my big breakthrough.
How old are you at this point? At the
Shit.
Howard Fine Studio?
Mid-20s.
Okay. So was there any like gap period between finishing UNH and then coming out here?
Yes. I after NYU and UNH, I graduated. I lived in so I was dating this girl, and she went to college in Colorado.
Okay.
And we lived in like a trailer park together. And I was like,
what was that like?
I mean, it was, it was gorgeous trailer park. We were just poor as shit. I mean, it was a level of poverty that's like not really glamorous at the time. I mean, now, like with the safety of it, I can talk about it and be like, oh, that's cool, man. You go to bed hungry sometimes. Like we moved into this off-season cabin at one point. We had 2 big dogs, and it was filled with all these canned goods of people who would just rent it and leave it. And we're like laughing at the shit. You know, cut to 2 months later, we have no money. We're eating like, you know,
Holy
pumpkin pie mix. And you know, I'd call my parents and I'd be like, hey, listen, I'm fucking starving. And they're like, you can't starve. I'm sending you money. And then they write a check, they put it in the mail, and you open it up, it's like $150. You know, because again, I thought I was rich, but we're not.
That's gone in 2 days. So.
And it just, you know, whatever. And by the way, there's no, you know, it takes forever to get out there. So, and then we ended up waiting tables and do all that shit. But I wrote a bunch of terrible. I wrote a novella. I wrote some screenplays. I was like, I'm going to be Jack London. I'm going to sit out here. And I didn't.
What part of Colorado is this?
It was Durango.
Okay.
It's gorgeous. Get up and I'd go, you know, hiking and doing all that shit. I had a Harley. I was like going to, you know, Telluride Film Festival and watching people do what I wanted to do. I was just like, I had no idea because I wasn't like, I didn't have a community. I didn't know how to get that. So I burned off that time. And then the guys.
What was your confidence like at that time being like truly broke?
It was nothing. I had no confidence.
But I mean, you had a girlfriend. You must have been doing something right.
Yeah. I mean, look, I had close friends, but all of us were, you know, it's just a different time. I mean, you're low status. You know, you get fucked over by the IRS. You get, you know, people just don't trust you. You have no money. You're wearing old clothes. You don't want to hire. You know what I mean? You're just stuck in that loop. It's not, and you know, look, that's just, I think, kind of how it was back then is your parents would just be like, well, you're not starving. I mean, when I told them some of that shit later, they're like, we had no idea, but I just didn't grow up. I mean, you guys know that. It wasn't like the way we are with my daughter, which is probably healthier. She's not going to, we have a cushion for her at all times. It's always checking in. Are you okay? It was more like I just left at 18. I just left and did shit. And, you know, I was like I felt bad calling and asking for money, but sometimes you had to. So
did you feel like at the time were you like, okay, I am rock bottom, or were you just oblivious at the time?
I just thought that's the way it is. Everybody I knew, that's how it was. I mean, it was like
just like ignorant.
Yeah, I was also, I don't know. I mean, there was a little flicker in me for sure, pulling me towards what I felt like I wanted to do with my life, and you know, trying to stoke that flame. But it's hard when you're like, you really want to do something. Now, look, once you know how to do it, like you got, like, look, man, you're an actor too, right? He's a handsome guy.
By discipline.
Okay, so say you know how to, like, if I gave you the script, you would know how to do it. And you're like, I just need the break. Let me say, I know a ton of incredibly talented actors that you give them a role, they're going to hit it out of the park. The hard part is getting the role, right? So that's a certain frustration. For me, it was like, not only did I not know how to get the job, but if I got the job, I didn't know how the fuck to do with it. I just didn't even have an idea except for that, like, need to do it. So whatever skill set I had, that voice, that it just wasn't unlocked yet. I just know what it was, and that just takes time. It takes doing shit. So,
do you believe in destiny? Like, really think about it. Like, you know, you were living in a trailer park. You just made like,
I mean, it was a nice
real
trailer
deal
park,
Hollywood movie with real actors and real.
Well, I think, I mean, to some extent, but I just know for me, like, it's just hard work, and more importantly, it's meeting people. It's. Yeah, I do think to some extent. I mean, it's kind of like fishing. This is the old man philosophy I'll give you. So it's like, what bait are you using is what you're going to attract. So that took me a while to figure out what that was.
Can I just, no, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
no, go ahead.
When people say that, like, you are what you attract, it's just like so much easier said than done.
Well, no, what it is,
you're like stressed as fuck, but like you still want to go places. You don't want to attract more stress.
Well, I'm going to tell you what it is. So already I can tell just barely knowing you guys, like, you got your shit together, you got the studio, you put your money where your mouth is, you're making something, you're doing that.
Again, good actor.
Well, no, it's true. Build it and they will come. Like, you do that. If you are a negative, toxic, shitty person, you know, it's like we said, starting fights, doing all the stuff, getting fucked up all the time and doing that, who's going to surround you? You know what I mean? But once I started to be like, I dedicate myself to arts and telling the truth, and especially in theater is not super glamorous, but it's incredibly rewarding, and it's a beautiful art form. You know what I mean? And it's a lot of work. Like, you do theater, the type of theater we did at the beginning, you write the play, you rehearse it, you do the lines, you rehearse in someone's basement off hours, you're carrying the boxes in, you're setting up the lights, you're selling the drinks, you're like working your fucking ass off to do it. Why? Because you're passionate and you love it. That's what I mean, is you do that stuff and you start attracting like-minded people like that.
Now, do you think you're like a purist in terms of being an artist? Like, if there was no money ever attached to any of this stuff, you would still do it?
I mean, I would still look. I did do it for many years with no money. I would still do something. Now, to me, it's like,
But how much nicer is life with a little
well,
money?
no, I listen. I think it's just, what do you want to be, a hobbyist, and that's fine, or do you want to find a way to parlay it into a living and make money? Look, I'm confident there's shit I could do, and I do good, but I'm confident if I had put this much work into stuff that was just money making endeavors, I would have made a lot more money. But I wouldn't have made money doing something I love. That's the trick. That's the trick right there. For a while I was working 2 or 3 jobs. I was writing scripts or plays or
Out
whatever.
here when you moved out?
Yeah.
What were you doing?
I was my first job in LA was I was in the mailroom at Castle Rock Entertainment.
Okay.
Fucking really weird story, but like some dude was claiming that Rob
God,
Reiner.
your voice gets so soft.
No, somebody was claiming Rob Reiner stole a movie idea, and it wasn't even like a good movie. Rob Reiner's made some great movies. This movie that he said Rob Reiner stole was not a good movie. So the guy, it was like death threats and all that shit, and the receptionists were like freaked out. So I was registered at this temp agency, and they're like, "Would you go to Castle Rock and do that?" They had to disclose everything that went on, and I was like, I'm literally not afraid of some guy who's like, says this, it's fine. And there's security guards there and everything. So I was like, sure. So they planted me in the thing. I was like Rob Reiner's patsy for a little bit. So I was doing that.
Oh my God.
That's how I got my in. And then someone in the mailroom quit, and I got a job in the mailroom, and then I got a job as an assistant to the head of VP of public relations. But I was like, I'm in the industry. I'm working in it. It was cool. It was a cool time.
And you're doing the corporate industry side of things while also doing the plays.
Well, yes. While I was there, I started to do the plays.
Got it.
And then started to juggle those two for many years. And I was single, and I was having a good time, and like
Going out in Santa Monica drinking.
I was, man. I'll be honest though, being single, I was much less productive.
Really?
Yeah.
Yo, we got to talk once the mics get off, man. Me and Luke were just having this conversation. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, no, because it's like getting laid is a full-time job. It's awesome. I had great experiences. I really enjoyed it. It was crucial in my growth. But then when I started dating my now wife, and it was like, okay, I found the person, and now we want to build something together. It gave me the sort of like kick in the ass I needed, which is like shit or get off the pot. Like, and we got pregnant real quick. So I had a baby coming.
How old are you?
When she got pregnant, I think I was 30.
Okay, so you're not like super young, but
No. I mean, I'd had my fun and done that stuff, but I was still in the mailroom. I mean, I was still an assistant, and she was a lot younger, but we were still like, holy shit, what are we going to do? And it's LA. It's not easy. It's not cheap. So then I just had to be like, but then I started to temp. I worked at an agency, a PR agency that paid more. I worked for video game PR, which was kind of cool.
sorry to cut you off.
Sure.
But during this time, because Luke, I don't mean to blast you. Luke's in a similar position where he's made a film.
Yeah.
And he's also working on the corporate side of things right now as his day to day, and he wants to make another movie. So is there still a seed in your brain like at some point I will make an impactful project during this time where you're hustling your 9 to 5?
I was making theater, which was, I had some opportunities where I wrote plays and I was in the play. So I'm on stage surrounded by collaborators in a community living my craft. And I'll be honest, very few things have come close to that in terms of the creative joy and the like. When you're doing something and like your whole brain is firing?
Flow state.
The flow state. Yeah, sure, I'll buy that. Flow state. It was that. And that was beautiful. But it was like, you got to pay the bills, you got to do it. So it was a juggle. It was a hustle. I've always been a hustler, figuring that out.
Oh my God.
But I was focused on the art and my craft, and then the business side came, and then the money came. But when I first started and I was trying to write, like I said, derivative screenplays and shit, and no one cared. They're like, you're 25 years old. Why the fuck are you writing a Indiana Jones clone? Like, this is stupid. Like, write about being 25-year-old in LA doing stupid shit. Like, where's that? And I was like, well, that's not, Scorsese wouldn't make that movie. But it took me, and then when you figure your voice and who you are and what your point of view is, which you need to discover as an actor and as a writer or director or anything, it's like, what's your take on this? How are you doing this different than someone else? And the answer really is like, nobody's going to do the shit you do. I don't care who it is. You know what I mean?
I think I really felt that with your film too. It just felt like it was your brain.
Well, the film was very much an extension of
the play.
And the experience of the play, which was a late night really gritty, hugely successful, but we just made it. You know, it was, I just met Bernthal, and the director I worked with before, and the guy who played Packy in the original production was a friend. Like, it was just friends. My wife produced it. Like, we did it very, very low stakes, high yield effort, and we just didn't know what was going to happen. And then when the movie came, you know, doing the movie was like, let's do the same shit. Like, I was making a lot of headway and a lot of money as a studio screenwriter, and Bernthal, obviously his career was taken off, but we were always like, let's fucking make our movie, but let's make it with the same sort of aesthetic principles that we did with the play, which is like, we don't give a shit what's going to happen to it. We're going to make it intimate and small enough and uncompromising, and then just see what happens.
Make the conversations really strong.
Yeah, just make it real. Make it ours. Like, the less money you put into something, the less people you have breathing down your neck. And again, I created, that was another point. Like, making that movie was another time. That was a creative highlight. My whole brain was just firing on all cylinders. And that's all I want to do is get back to that.
Speaking of making things real, when your character is outside grilling, you got steaks on the grill.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I don't know if this was probably your directorial choice, but you had the close up of like you actually slicing the meat. I got queasy seeing that.
That's kind of gross.
I was like, oh god.
Yeah, because his hands are all dirty.
It's just like bloody nasty meat.
Yeah, that was kind of the
good
idea.
shot though. It was great.
Yeah.
You're outside on the grill. You have the steaks on the grill. What is actually in the tin foil? Is it corn?
It's mushrooms.
That was my third guess, man.
Sorry.
You know what I'm talking about? What did you think it was?
I don't think I've ever seen mushrooms.
Oh, you never do that? You don't know.
What'd you put? Like olive oil and then
You just take mushrooms, you chop them up, put olive oil on, a little garlic, and you put them in there, and you just pour them on the steaks.
So that was like a delicacy growing up for you.
I mean, it was like, yes, that's still how I make it. So, that was a highlight. It's funny, man. You just gave me deja vu because the first play I ever did, the first full length play I ever did, and it went to New York for the Fringe Festival, and I had some guys I grew up with come down and see it. And there's a scene in there where I play this cop from Medford, Massachusetts, and he's like in love with the neighbor and blah blah blah. So making a sandwich. And he's like, the character is like, I got this great way to make a sandwich with special sauce. Put all the ingredients out and make the sandwich during the scene. It's like a fucking scene. Give you some shit to do. And the thing that everybody who I grew up with would always ask, like, is that a real sandwich? Like, what do you do with the sandwich when you're done? So every night you make a sandwich, does someone eat it? Like, they're fascinated with that, the verisimilitude of theater of doing that. You know what I mean? It's not anything deeper than that.
What were the contents of the sandwich?
It was ham, chopped onions, olive oil, lettuce, tomato, all that shit. Whatever the sort of stage manager set up that night.
So you had to consume that for every single play?
I didn't eat it on stage. Their thing was like, you make this great sandwich, then does someone eat it backstage? Like the mechanics of the sandwich were very fascinating to multiple people.
Okay.
And by the way, that was the first time anyone I grew up with had ever seen anything I did, because New York was close enough. Some of them came down and checked it out.
And they're like, what happened to you, John? You soft.
No, they loved, pretty much. Well, I did have that phase initially, man. When I was like telling some people I grew up with I was in acting class, they were like, I don't know if, I don't want to say what they said because I'll get canceled, but it was not flattering. You know what I mean?
I have an idea.
You have an idea of what they said.
Probably called you a Q word.
Yeah, the harder version of that. But
got it.
Well, because you're like, so, I mean, man, you guys are a little older than that, but when you're first in your 20s and you want to pursue something creative and you're like eating shit, you see your friends who aren't making those choices and they have maybe a family, a house, a nice car by the time they're like 27.
They're an accountant. They work at KPMG.
Yeah, but still there's that. But then you're like, look, I'm not making anything. I'm just fucking working.
I'm out here grinding.
I'm out here grinding for something. And then you see that. And then so during that window is what I'm talking about. When they're like, you're out there doing this bullshit, like working 3 jobs for what? To do acting class? Like, what are you doing in that? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, how ridiculous is that? And then what happens is you sustain the marathon. Maybe you start making, look, I did a ton of, like, when I was starting out, I did a lot of commercial acting. So I do like fucking, I did a big Chase commercial, a huge campaign. So like everybody, Chase Bank. And I was literally my face with this woman who was like my wife in the commercials. It was like the first time you could scan a check and deposit it over your phone. Dude, the fucking ads were everywhere. People in Miami were like taking photos. Like me and this woman's face are on the whole building. They're like, you made it. You fucking made it. And by the way, in the audition, the callback for the audition, there's a waiver there that says you have to like sign away print rights for like $2,000.
Got it.
So it's like you make nothing on that. But anyway, I mean, I made okay money, but the print ad, dude, I'm telling you, like dozens of buildings across the world, my face take up the whole building. And
everyone thought you were that guy.
And by the way, you make like 22 grand minus, commissions and shit. You know what I'm saying? But they're like, you made it. You're a star. You're on a bus. It was on buses too.
That happened to me when I got my LLC. Everyone was like, dude, Big Connie's making millions. This is crazy.
Yeah,
I'm
Connie
like,
with LLC.
Like, yeah, I paid $550 online. It took me about 12 minutes to acquire that thing.
Let him think. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot what we were talking about. But anyway.
You were talking about your first play.
So we did that play. We were talking about sandwiches because you were talking about the grill. Making the movie was very much, that was the aesthetic of it, was like we planned out every shot, we did all that stuff, but it was like a performance delivery system. Like, how can we place the camera to maximize the performances? We get guys like Shay and Sierra and Bernthal and those guys and make it a fussy camera move on everything. You don't. You just like make it feel real. Verisimilitude, make it raw, make it, like my favorite filmmakers always did that. It was like the camera's like a beat behind the action. It's not. Some great filmmakers do that. Like, look at the way Hitchcock makes stuff. It's so pristine. Or Darabont or somebody. But then you look at some of these more raw filmmakers, which is what we were emulating. So then, therefore, the food, you have to be able to eat it. You have to be able to cook it. It all has to happen. That was like a directive. You know what I mean? It's like, then you're sitting there and you're eating the steaks. Like, it's all real. You don't want to lie. I just didn't want to be false in that sort of contained, which you can do when you have a contained movie. It's not.
So is it real booze?
No. Fuck no. Although most of the weed was real, especially Bernthal was like a huge pothead. He's like, I'm gonna, that scene where everybody's getting fucked up out there. I mean, he smoked so much weed. He was high as shit. It was the last shot of the day. He's like, had to be like, I mean, he smokes a lot of weed, but he was hitting those bong hits. And I'm like, I took one and I was like, dude, I can't do this. I can't handle that. Yeah. We did when it was funny, man. Once the play, which was like it became this huge underground hit, sold out this 99 seat theater again and again and again. And then when Bernthal was about to leave, I think it was him, to go do Walking Dead, we had a substance specific performances, invite only, just for friends, late night. So we all came over and it was all real booze, real beer, real weed, real whiskey, and we all got fucked up.
Must have been a blast.
It was a blast. It was a terrible show, but it was kind of like I guess theater meets Gallagher type shit. You know what I mean? It was like everybody thinks it was a terrible show, but it was fun and everyone was there. But
that's in Venice, right? That's where you were doing it?
It was actually Pico and La Brea.
Okay.
Was where the theater was originally. It's like Miracle Mile area.
Got it.
Yeah.
Now, when that play started stroking it, how old are you?
Oh, Jesus. 35 maybe?
So you've been grinding for like 12 years.
Yeah. Well, at
I'm just saying,
when
like,
Small and Repair came out, the play.
You're out here, you're doing your temporary your temp jobs. This is like your first boom.
It's 10 years. Because I moved out, 11 years. I moved out I came here at like 2000.
And so what did that feel like for you?
It didn't feel like much of anything different because Small Engine Repair was the first play I'd written that was, and I had a bunch produced by then, stuff I was really proud of, but it was the first time I said, one, it was late night, so you can be as like rough as you want. And it was the first time I wrote so specifically about the neighborhood I grew up in because I was like, why not? And it was that unfiltered thing was a great lesson to learn because it was like, when you try to, and look, you have to do this as a living. Hey, a producer, somebody hires me, a studio hires me. I have to say, okay, what do they want? How can I give them what they want and still say what I want, right? And to get paid, it's a collaboration, it's a project, it's a commercial endeavor. But when you make theater, there's no money. And with Small Engine Repair, I'm like, let me just fucking make what I want to make, and make
you have
it.
No pressure from somebody else.
There's no pressure. There's no delusions of grandeur. It just is what it is. It's successful if we get to walk away from it and be like, holy shit, we had that choice. It's like punk rock, man. Great punk rock is like, it doesn't give a shit. It kind of like, fuck you. I don't care if you like it.
Yeah, but I just mean like, dude, you were homeless in a trailer park.
I mean, it wasn't homeless. Dude, the story keeps getting worse and more. It was a very nice trailer.
You lost all your teeth in that trailer park.
Yeah, no, it took a long time. I mean, don't know. I wasn't at a point when sort of success hit that I started getting paid for shit. I don't know. I was not quite at a point where I was like, dude, where I can only do this a couple more years, because artistically I was so satisfied. I just was, and I kind of believed, I'm like, it'll happen eventually, and theater was giving me that feedback, and that, like, oh my God, you have a great voice. Don't stop writing theater. And I had great friends and people, and I had a community of it, and we were all working together. I mean, look, the first couple of plays I wrote, by the way, the first few plays I wrote, the only way you could get reviewed is if you paid the newspaper. There was this place, I don't know if it's still there. It used to be called the Tolucan Times, man. And you had to take an ad out in their newspaper. And if you did, they would send a reviewer to your play. Doesn't mean they would write a good review, but like, it costs money to have a reviewer.
You had to pay for a Russian
And when you're
roulette.
when you're such a non-entity as a theater company, you can't get anybody to come. You call them. You call LA Times. Like, I didn't have LA Times review anything I wrote until I was in a bigger theater. You know what I mean? Like, they don't have the bandwidth to do that. So you just do it for the love of the shit and to get it out there and to just create.
So what was the review?
The Tolucan Times? Yeah, I don't even remember. I do remember running to the newsstand to get it, to read my first review, and it wasn't out yet. I wasn't bad, but I don't think it was great, if I recall. It was like a night of one-act plays. You know what I mean?
Now, when you dropped the movie, were you monitoring the reviews? Do you really care that much? Or whose feedback do you really care about?
I made a really strong effort to not read reviews, because now when the movie came out, it was such like a roller coaster because of COVID. We were supposed to premiere it South by a week before we were supposed to go out. South by Southwest was canceled. Then we sat on the movie. We didn't know what to do. You know what I mean? It was a really long thing. And then the weekend we came out in the theaters, and it was like on 200 and something theaters. It was a big release for an indie movie. Delta hit. So it was like fucking everything sucked.
When was this? Like July 21?
No. It was October last year.
October 21.
Yeah.
Got it.
But I just said, take me off of that shit. And by the way, I was working on, you're always working on other shit, and I just didn't want to be distracted by it. Like, I just knew that it would be like picking a scab. I couldn't stop. And like, what do you want from that? It got to the point where people, my wife, my manager, friends would send me reviews. Like, do you read reviews? No. Well, you got to read this one. So then when they're that vetted, you're like, okay, I'll read them. And then they're like, you're like, holy fuck. And you start lifting off that chair again. And you're like, oh my God, they get me. Because that's all you want to do, is you just want them to get it. They don't have to like it, but you want them to get it.
To understand it.
But then a couple days go by and nobody sends you them anymore. And you're like, what the fuck? So it's like, there's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I got some of the highlights. I mean, we did great, for the most part, I think, without getting into the minutia. And I try to stay off like social media, that shit. It's I can't handle it. You know what I mean? It doesn't make me a better artist. And I just know, like I said, for me, it's like, I don't need excuses to distract me and make me feel like shit. Cause I'm like, my big albatross has always been to have the courage to just really do shit. You know what I mean? And it's hard, dude. You write this shit.
Don't you feel like you're there now, though?
What's that?
You talk from perspective, like it's still hard for you to like put stuff out. You feel that way still?
Yeah, well, I mean, you put a lot more. Your percentage of stuff that gets made is small in comparison to what you put out. You
No, I
always
just
want
mean
to
like you were talking about like growing up. It was hard for you to develop courage to be artistic, but you still feel that way, or?
I mean, I don't feel the same way. Like I know what I'm doing, but for me, I you get in the weeds of a script, especially, and then you kind of. So for me to really get to that place, I kind of have to let go. You know. And in order to let go, to go to the places that I need to get, just lost in a story, you sometimes lose perspective. So you don't, and then there's the terror of the first few people who read it, who, in a good scenario, they'd be like, wow, that was really fun, or that was really great. And then, you also know, you have that queasy feeling in your stomach where you're like, fuck, I need to go back to the drawing board. I need to change it. You know what I mean? Like anyone who writes, they want their first draft to be brilliant. People will be like, oh, dude, don't change a word. Mm-hmm. It's never that case, but that's what you always want. You always shoot for. So I wouldn't say it's the lack of courage. I would just say it's the energy that it takes to do shit that you have to, you just have to preserve yourself. I found like, even just, when I'm writing, I had to get off of like Twitter and shit like that, because I think good writing is real and is messy. Good characters are flawed. Stories illuminate truths, and truths are messy. And I found especially Twitter to be like impossible. Like if you posted, I love peanut butter, motherfuckers are going to be all over you. How you dare you say that? Like, I'm allergic to peanut butter. I'll die. You saying I should die? And people be
That's
like,
not very
peanut butter is
vegan of
awesome.
you.
But you just can't please everybody. And it's cliche. And those aren't real people or not. But like, you just want to have conversations. You want to have real shit. So I want my work to be not concerned with being vetted by all of these faceless voices. And it's hard not to hear those voices if you are consumed with reading that. What do we usually do? It's like you see a movie and you love it and you go and you want to read the reviews that love it to reinforce what you believe and have that communal feeling.
But you need that.
I don't know if you do. I mean,
you're probably more of a purist than I am. I think I'll send you my movie after this. You make.
Oh yeah, I'd love to.
Like this dude's definitely a good producer, but writing wise, needs a little work. I think feedback is so valuable, though.
But feedback from a peer or feedback from
The general public, I guess, is a little different.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
But someone who has an agenda who's not going to like it. That's what I'm just saying is like nowadays you are sort of rewarded for being outraged at shit. And like theater where I came from and I cut my teeth in, the bread and butter of theater is always to be provocative and to create a conversation. And there's no bad conversations. You know, some of the most grotesque, disturbing plays I've ever seen are actually cathartic and cleansing and can create real change in your own life. But, you know, stuff that's handling you with kid gloves, that's like utopic and pandering and fake. It may not offend, but it doesn't move the needle. It doesn't do what I think real great art should do. And I'm not saying a commercial, entertaining art form always needs to do that, but when you see something and it's the equivalent of just guzzling cherry soda for an hour and a half, you're just like, I don't.
It's not challenging.
It's not challenging. And again, not everything, there's levels of challenging, but what I resent is when someone says, when I'm like, look, man, I'm trying to make a point here. And they're like, the point is valid, but you can only say it in this way. Like, I hate that. It gets in my head and I just have to avoid it. Now, a peer, someone who's made shit, like a person, I'm always happy to talk to him like that. I mean, you know,
how do you separate your ego from the feedback?
Well, like in theater, I've done it mostly for me. It's been theater. Again, the only movie I've ever directed came out during the pandemic, so I had 2 Q&As, 1 Q&A actually. So it's
But
never.
you had wrote the other one.
But in doing theater, there are people who can be offended by shit. You don't have like, I'm not like people just have to like, you know, suck my dick and say it's great. But
I loved it though, man.
yeah, no. I mean, look, that's good. It validates when you're like, look, I made some shit and I'm glad you got it and you connected with it. And if you didn't, that's fine.
I put Manch Vegas in a movie. I'm the big dog.
Exactly. That's how. But when people get like pissed that you didn't do it the way they would have done it or whatever, like, I don't need that shit. But when you have peers and people who are making shit or regular people or just like responding, I mean, that's why you do it. You want to hear that feedback. You just don't want to do it anonymously on like online and shit. I get no value from that.
There's a line in the movie, and I'm going to try to reenact it real quick. If I blow this, I apologize because I know it's a script, but it was more like, it was along the lines of like, my Irish Catholic ancestors suffered for years and years of terrible, terrible turbulence. White people shit on us for years. I don't have to go through this shit.
Right.
You're familiar with the line?
Yes.
Now, did you grow up with characters like that?
Well, I mean,
Is Pollono?
Pollono, yeah, it's Italian.
It sounds Italian.
It was just kind of riffing on that thing of like, there's just not a lot of diversity in that neighborhood. And as an Irish, which he's very proud of his Irishness. And I know a lot of Irish people growing up in New England. And I've always thought that's funny. It's like an Irish person using it which is totally valid. You know, hey man, you know, in the 1920s, Irish people were the lowest on the low. They were oppressed from all that stuff.
I still pull it out of my pocket.
No, it's great. Man. It's funny. Like, to me, it's just funny and real and raw. And I'm like, you know, it's provocative, but who gives a fuck? It's like people say that. And it was just in that moment of like Packy's badge of honor that he, you know, because he is like, that character is, you know, as beautifully played by Shay, is like woke or beyond woke. He's not in an environment that has that, but he's a thinker and he's empathetic and he feels everything. So
It's a hilarious excuse.
Yeah, no,
for
it's
everything.
but he's not a bigot. He's like he is who he is. But I mean, I just thought that was real and funny for somebody to say that. Like, and there was a cleaner version of it in the play, and in the script, we just had that moment. We riffed a little bit more on it, and that's the version. That was the take that made it to the movie.
I still
Where he
hear
messed it
people
up.
use that.
Yeah.
I heard it this past weekend. It's ridiculous.
Well, look, man, I think when you have good characters, you love them, you laugh at them. Like everybody's ridiculous to some extent. Like nobody is perfect, and that's Packy. All those characters in that movie is like exists to have complicated characters that you root for, that you're afraid of, you agree with, you don't agree with, and the whole sort of range of that. It's
Are you Catholic?
I was raised Roman Catholic. I don't really.
What are your
practice
thoughts now?
much.
You don't practice?
I mean, I don't practice. I think in really troubling times, I go back to some of the traditions I had, some of the prayers and shit, but I don't, I'm not a strict traditional Catholic.
What did that upbringing? What was that like? You're like going to church on Sundays,
Yeah.
CCD type thing.
All that shit. We kind of started tapering off when a ski area opened near us, and we started skiing on Sundays in the winter. So our church going took a big hit.
What was that?
over
Suicide
skiing.
6?
It was called Birch Mountain.
Is that still there?
It's definitely not there anymore.
Birch Mountain.
Yeah, it was like a little It was like 15 minutes from our house. It was
Okay.
a little like T-bar.
How far were you from Whaleback Mountain?
I
Like,
don't even know where that is.
it's like along the highway if you're like headed to Vermont.
I was Manchester,
Yeah, yeah.
which is southern New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And it's like whatever.
So you're like
30,
Sunapee area.
40. Yeah, Sunapee's closer, but still, there's nothing like Birch Mountain was a little teeny thing right there. Most of the mountains you go up on 93. I was right near the Route 93.
Okay.
So you go 93 north to Cannon, Sunapee, all those. Waterville Valley, we did a lot.
When you go home now, or like back to the East Coast, does it ever give you a boosted perspective about what you have going on in LA?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's funny because, like, I left New Hampshire because I was like, this isn't for me. And then most of my theater that I've written has been about New Hampshire. You write about what you know, but it was like having that encapsulated, like, that's your youth. And when you're in it, you don't really have a perspective on it. But then once I left, I realized, wow, that was all my formative years there. And I just knew the cadence of the way people talk and the stories and all that stuff. So I love it, and I love going back, and it does refill a lot of that stuff you're talking about. Keeps you real. I have so much family back there, but sometimes you feel, as you guys will find soon, as you're like, like a man of no tribe. Like, where are you? And you have your roots there, but you don't live there for a reason, and then you're here, but you're like, you're still growing roots there. So this is like manifest destiny for LA. You're drawn to something that so many of us are, you know what I mean? And it's like creating a new community. But I mean, you'll never be the same, you go home and you're still like, it's just different. That's okay. But I mean, look, I got older. To me, the best thing that ever happened to me was
You look great for 50.
Thanks, man.
For sure, honestly. I hope I look as good as you at 50. At
Oh.
this rate, though, I don't know. I don't know if I'll have any hair, man.
Oh, is that right? Yeah. who
I'm
cares?
tucking way back. Take a look.
That's all right, man. Widow's Peak, right?
They got doctors out here. We'll be all right.
Yeah, it'll be fine. In the next, 10, 15 years, there'll probably be some sort of pill for that. But for me, the best thing was having a daughter, because it got me suddenly take my life serious on another level. She's like 17 now. But when I was almost 18, I mean, I was just fucking around. I was like afraid to really do it, which you guys are not. But when you build roots and you start having family, it's like that was the big thing for me, to be like, oh shit, this is my family. You know what I
So
mean?
that accelerated your career.
Hugely.
Really?
Yes.
Just discipline-wise.
Well, you cut out, like, man, a lot of people who are, kids, for me at least, it was like having a kid. I had to give up a lot, but most of the shit you give up is stuff that wasn't as important. Like, we cling on to the routines of that. And then the emotion you feel having a child, for me, was so profound that it set the bar. It's like, oh fuck, I didn't even know there was those colors. Here I am painting and I didn't even know those colors. And that was a huge part of it. You know what I mean? To suddenly have that.
So correct me if I'm wrong. You kind of felt like you were fucking around until you were like 30 when you have your first kid. So what is that like when you get that call? What is running through your brain?
Which call?
Hey man, We're having a baby.
Oh, you assumed it was a phone call.
Oh, is it in person?
Yeah.
You just put your head to
You
her
know,
stomach?
I
think something's in there.
No. I mean, she was like had the test, and she's like, "We gotta talk." She was like in my apartment.
God.
You know, I was so in love with her that it was a really great sort of test, because when I found out, I was like nervous, like, fuck, we gotta provide. Stressed, sure, but I wasn't like terrified in that sense. Look, I was in relationships with some really, really great women before, and having those scares or whatever at that point in your life, you're not ready. But emotionally, I was ready because I didn't want anybody else but her, and it just accelerated my timeline that I knew in my heart was there, but it didn't. It just straightened some shit out. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, here we go. This is what we're doing now. All hands on deck, and I had this line in one of the first plays I wrote where this guy goes, he's kind of like a tougher guy from Boston, and he's got this pregnant girlfriend, and his younger brother comes up to him and is like, how do you know when you're in love? He's like,
I was literally just going to ask you that question. How did you know?
Well, the line in the play was, you don't want to run to Mexico when you find out she's pregnant. Like, that's love to him. But I mean, I knew I loved her before then, but that was certainly like, oh shit, this is the real thing.
What does that feel like?
To be in love?
Yeah.
I don't know, it's great.
I know, but
it's like having a best friend. You ever have, when you meet somebody and you're like buddies with them and you look at them and you're like, oh, this is cool, man. I'm just not hanging out. Like, I genuinely like this person. I want good things to happen to them.
Yeah, but how do you differentiate between like and love?
That's a very profound question. I think it's your time with them is much more enjoyable than your time without them. So therefore, you want to start making choices that will maximize that time and that connection. I think that's a huge part of love. I mean, I deeply love my wife. I've been in love with other women and, other relationships. I've always fallen in love pretty easy, but this was just a different thing, But by the way, I think a huge component of that is timing too. Like, you have to be ready as a person to accept that degree of love. You know what I mean? Like, you could meet someone today and you're like, wow, I really like them. There's chemistry. I just want, I want to, like, this would be great. Let's get drunk. Let's fuck. This is awesome. But you're not ready to do that next step or whatever. And that's cool. But then eventually, that's why you always got, I think, like, I didn't think it then. I didn't realize it, but you just have to do the work on yourself so that you're ready too. You know what I mean? And you will be. But look, a lot of people.
So you think like at 30, you were at that point?
I think I was getting there. I think getting pregnant a little earlier. I mean, we knew each other for a long time. Like, she was a pal of mine before we started dating. So we definitely were.
You guys were
like
acting together, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
I knew her in acting class, and like, you're in acting class, you meet, you hang out, you have beers every, twice a week after class. We did the theater company together. We had all that stuff. So we were already like, she's somebody that I was like a dear friend just to begin with before we started like dating.
So it developed over time, or like at first you knew like,
well, she was in a relationship.
Fuck that old guy.
No, I didn't care. But I mean, I looked at her more like, but look, I grew up with a lot of sisters. So I've always had a lot of girlfriends. You know what I mean? It's just, I've had a lot of deep friendships with women that aren't sexual, and it's fine. I've had the ability to sort of like just have that switch. Like, some guys want to fuck all their girlfriends, It wasn't how I was. I just enjoyed a lot of women that I just, to this day, a lot of my closest friends are women. And she was one of them. And then it just sort of transitioned. I mean, I was nervous to date her because like, I didn't want to mess up the friendship, but we didn't, fortunately.
But was there like a loop period where you developed the bond with someone? Is that how it happened? Or
Well, like,
at
again,
first you're like, what? I think I could spend the rest of my life with this woman.
No, it doesn't happen like that. I think that's farce. I think it's gradual. Again, I think it's a marathon. And suddenly you're like, wow, I really enjoy it. And man, to me, it was like, I knew I was really falling for her when I would hear songs on the radio and be like, oh my God, I got to play that to her. Or I'd start to watch a movie and I'd pause it and I'd be like, I'm going to wait until she's here and watch it. That level of like wanting to share it with somebody. And by the way, I used to do that for chicks and then it'd be like, break up with me or be like, fuck you. And I'd be like, my God, I don't like them anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a natural thing, but then suddenly you meet that right person and it's easy with her. It's just easy, man. It shouldn't be the games. It shouldn't be all that shit.
I think I might hire you as my therapist, man.
It's not therapy, bro. It's like, you just need a bigger, you need a big brother, man.
I do. You're right. I need a paternal figure in my life, man. My father and his history with women. Whoa.
And that's something you got to work at. Dude, honest to God, man, I'll tell you, the best thing you can do as an artist and as a human being is to go to therapy. I went to it by accident when I was like in my late 20s.
You just walked into the office.
No, I was
dude,
I was
talked to you forever.
I was
man.
dating this girl, and things were really bad, and we were in a pretty serious relationship. And
What do you mean? It was toxic as hell.
no, it wasn't toxic at all. It just wasn't going anywhere, and we just wasn't. She was a very good person, we just wasn't going anywhere. And we started to go to couples therapy, and then we broke up, and I kept going to that therapist. I never would have, and I was like, holy shit. By the way, that therapy made me such a better writer and a better performer and better everything. Like,
What was the big revelation?
I mean, it's not like that. It's not like fucking Good Will Hunting. I mean, you got to get over that shit. It's more like the self-examined life. You know what I mean? Like, what do they say? You examine your life to know why you feel the way you feel is huge for your life. But then also as a creator, whether you're an actor or writer or director, you need to know what makes people tick. Our business is what makes people tick. And if you don't even know your own shit, it's going to be a lot harder. I would recommend it. And you know what it is too, man, is like, it doesn't have to be fucked up. It's not like you just suddenly sit there and you're like, oh shit, that's why I don't like tuna fish. Like, that ain't what it is. It's just the gradual time of somebody peeling back and talking and feeling comfortable with that. I found that, by the way, that's a huge reason why I was able to be in a relationship suddenly. Because I was like, me in a relationship before therapy and me in a relationship after therapy was night and day.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you still go to a therapist?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, when you can, and when you have kids, it's harder, but it's great. Like, I don't look at it as a weakness in any kind. I think it's super additive if you have time, you know. And look, hey, I can get beers and I can talk to your buddies. I mean, that's true to some extent, but like getting somebody who is calm and licensed and knows what they're talking about, dude, you feel fucking great.
It's just the bind of like you're talking to someone that you doesn't necessarily even give a fuck. Like you're paying them like $150 an hour for them to listen to you.
Yeah, but dude, all that is defensive talk, bro.
Yo, I'm not going to therapy, man. I'm okay.
Right? You need an intervention, bro, if you're friends with him. No, it's I mean, you're not wrong. It takes some degree to get comfortable with, but like it's the context of what it is. Like, they got to make a living. Like, does that mean you need to find somebody who cares about you enough that they'll listen to your shit for an hour without interrupting you? By the way, when
Isn't that pretty human?
Yeah, but like when you talk to a friend about if your friendship is based on you're the guy who always vents and the other guy or gal always listens, it's like that's a one-sided friendship. A therapist is just like a consistent sessions where they're steering you towards this and they're making observations, and yeah, they're paid because they like went to school for this shit.
Do you think you could just look inward and deal with your own problems?
I can't. Maybe some people can. Doesn't sound like you can. I'm just joking. Like, no, honestly.
I've been getting emasculated this whole episode.
I'm just joking.
This is crazy.
I don't think, it's like, look, here's an analogy. Some people can have a gym in their garage and they get a great workout. But like, if you go to a gym and you have a trainer and they're like, all right, Conor, I get you for the next hour, you're going to get a better workout. Most people would, you know what I'm saying? And
Not
I think
me. I'm alpha.
I think therapy to some extent works like that in my experience. You know what I mean?
Understood.
Yeah.
What
again,
about like not talk therapy? What about just like behavior therapy or?
I've never done any of that stuff.
Okay.
You mean like meditation and shit?
When were you born?
72?
No, month wise.
May.
So what is your zodiac sign?
Gemini.
Do you believe in all that?
It's not that I don't believe in it. I just literally don't even know what it means.
Geminis are normally like super bipolar.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They like say, look out for Geminis.
Really? I think, I mean, my wife and my kid, my daughter are kind of into that stuff. I think my Gemini to that point manifests itself probably in the writing and stuff. And then I have that mind that I get into. And then I have like the functional thing. So there's probably bipolar in that sense, maybe.
Yeah. How do you channel your mania?
Look, man.
Also, I'm having a great time, by the way.
No, me too, man. Mania in the sense of what? Like,
I mean,
anxiety, nervous energy, all that shit?
Yeah, just like, I'm sure there's been times in your career where you've been a little manic.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, a huge help for me is working out. I do have a gym, and I have
so you're looking jacked, man.
I have you know, right? Most of it's like I'm a little soft from the pandemic, but you know, I lift weights. I get a lot of like anxiety, and I get pent up like anger if I don't. It just feels better,
Mm-hmm.
and then I like to have a routine, which is hard with kids sometimes. But I just have to have my routine and
Well, like
coffee. And
5 a.m. wake up type thing.
not that early. I mean, again, most of my routine is dictated around kids. It works really well during the school year because, like, my wife brings one of the kids, I bring the other one. You go, you know what time you're in the car, you know all that stuff. You come back, I walk the dogs, I come, I sit, I'm at my desk. It's my space, and I do my thing, and I know how long I have. That works best for me to have a routine. It's hard to get that in life, but that's helpful. I would recommend that to writers trying to, because like that's one thing I did learn early on is to be like writing for a living. You have to put the time in.
Reps.
Yes.
You got your reps in.
100%. And sometimes you're 3 hours, you get 3 days work done. Some days you're sitting there for 4 hours and you get nothing done. And then you get up and you go for a walk and you come back. You know what I'm saying? But if you put the time in and look at it like a job and chip away, then that's the only way you'll do it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's how I do that. The anxiety and the insanity of the work, it's having a schedule and reading, and watching shit. I watch. It's funny, man. Like I like a lot of shitty like movies. I find very comforting. Like
Tell me one.
like Red Dawn, like the original Red Dawn. I rewatched that, or like the Conan the Barbarian. The original was like
That's a great movie.
it's great. I mean, I don't know if it's great with
the
a capital
pinnacle
G.
of physique.
But you know how fun that is to
Yeah,
watch?
Jack that
Like,
guy
I
is-
never not watch that shit when it's on. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not, like, studying it. Like, there's a lot of movies that
There's some artistic.
I
merit
will
in there.
break down the structure of each scene and, like, emulate it. I'm not doing that with Conan the Barbarian, per se. But I enjoy it.
But some
See,
people don't
I'm
want.
meddling.
But some people don't want to watch a movie and watch a crossword puzzle. You know what I'm saying? Some people just want
Yeah.
that just like brain numbing.
No, I think most people do, and that's fine. I'm just saying, like, when you're in it, what do you look at to inspire? I mean, to me, it's always usually a lot of times the same, always chasing the same kind of form that a few movies have made, but like to just unwind and watch shit. You know what I mean? It's like to just kick back and watch. I watched all of them recently. Was the Lone Wolf and Cub. Have you ever seen those movies on HBO Max? Fucking crazy.
You like
You can
those?
sit there with a beer and watch it, and you're like, dude, this is crazy.
I've never seen
Super entertaining and out of control. It's like Kill Bill, basically, but authentic feudal Japan Kill Bill.
Okay.
It's crazy. 70s, like the fucking guitar, the violence is insane. It's hilarious. It's amazing.
You know, a really good heartwarming movie,
What's that?
Hotel Rwanda.
Oh, is that right? It's a real. I've never actually seen that. Don Cheadle, right?
Came out like 20 years ago.
Oh, did it?
I was being sarcastic. It's the saddest movie of all time.
Oh, is it really?
It's about a genocide.
Sometimes, like, sad movies can be cleansing too. Like, I'm with you. I'll watch something that just shatters me.
What is
You gotta
that
be in
for
the
you?
right move. I just recently rewatched Schindler's List, and I was like sobbing throughout
yeah.
the movie. I mean,
Marley and Me.
I've never seen Marley and Me. The dog
Instant cry.
with Owen Wilson.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm a sucker for dogs. I probably would cry at that.
I'm a sucker for Owen Wilson.
Oh, who is it?
Guy's the man.
He is a man. What was he just in that I saw? Oh, he's in that Loki show. I watched a couple of those.
Okay.
Those Marvel ones. You know what I mean? Those are fun to me too. Like,
They're impeccably produced.
well, it's like if I'm eating my sandwich for lunch and I'm not right. I'll turn on like one of those Marvel movies. They're like 40 minutes or whatever. They go down pretty easy.
Oh, the series.
The series.
Yeah, okay. Got
I'm
it.
behind
Miss
on a whole
Marvel.
bunch of it. I haven't seen that one yet.
I've just seen all the marketing.
I've heard it's
they
great.
just kill the marketing in LA. Their stuff is everywhere.
Do you know why they do that though, right?
They're rich.
No, because all the motherfuckers who work on it live here, so they're not doing it in Kansas. You know what I
that's
mean?
a
They
fact.
do it here. You know, if the lady whoever made Miss Marvel lived in Wichita, then there'd be billboards all over there. I think that's why they do it, because it's like their boss is driving to work and they're like, oh, they're doing their job. There's Miss Marvel. You know what I mean?
We have the coolest company ever. We're marketing everywhere. He's gonna make us wrap up pretty soon, I believe.
Sure, man. Whatever you need.
So, are you working on a Hulk Hogan movie?
Yes. Yeah.
Nice.
I hope that gets
Are
made.
you
someday.
WWE fan?
I am. I mean, I went when I was a kid, but I'm a huge Hulk Hogan fan. And
Okay.
writing the movie, which I wrote with Scott Silver, who's was a mentor of mine, and then became like a writing partner. I had a great time. He's just such a cool character.
You
In
got
the
to work
world.
with him on the screenplay.
With Hulk,
Yeah.
I mean, it's based a lot on his books and his interviews and stuff like that. And he wasn't like typing.
It's a biopic.
Yeah, kind of.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully I'll come back when they hopefully that's
When they let
made.
you talk about it, yeah. Understood.
Yeah, dude. Honestly, though, man, that's like I'm trying to think. I've worked on a couple things that were pretty close-lipped, but the Hulk Hogan one is like when they send people the script to read, it disappears in like 3 hours. Like it's crazy, and it's got your name all over it.
It's the WWE. They're
Yeah,
super protective
I don't know,
of the
man.
IP.
It's just sometimes they get these projects that I'm like, no one cares that much, do they? You can't even email it to anybody. But that one's top secret
Nice.
for that reason because it's kind of like a superhero movie, I guess.
Can you fill me in a little bit on like the soundtrack? It's like a lot of like 80s rock.
I mean, it stretches back then, so I'm sure there will be 80s rock in it.
Got it.
Although that's not, my call. That's above my pay grade.
Understood.
We'll see. Todd Phillips is going to direct it, hopefully. So he's really good with music. I'm sure he'll put some cool shit in there.
Anything else you're working on? Or anything else you want to promote?
I mean, nothing to promote. I mean, I'm working on a bunch. I'm writing a Ramones movie
Nice.
for Netflix. Got some cool shit going on. I'll tell you offline some more shit. I'm so fucking paranoid. I never know what to say. I was doing press for Small Engine Repair, and
I
people.
saw you killed it on Kelly Clarkson.
Oh my god, how crazy is that?
You did great, man.
It's so
You look
amazing.
handsome as hell, man.
I know, right? I got a new haircut and all that shit. I was like, what the fuck am I doing? I was like, this is, it felt like a dream. Like, do they really want me? They know it's who I am. I'm like standing there and it was so easy. And everybody's like, you're so confident. I was like, what? This is ridiculous. I mean, they were awesome and they were nice. And I had a great publicist who hooked me up and it was definitely a highlight of the thing. And, they showed
I
up.
honestly did think you did a great job.
Oh,
I'm not
thanks,
even
man.
gassing you
I
up.
appreciate that.
I don't know how I
appreciate
would
that.
act in a situation like that, in like a nice live talk show like that. I think I'd probably lose my mind.
I was just like, this is crazy. And then I'm like, there's no way she watched the movie. And then they showed a clip. It's like all censored. I love the fact that I was on that show promoting that movie to their fans. Anyway. Although Kelly Clarkson, there's probably a Venn diagram where like Kelly Clarkson fans and Small Engine Repair fans have some sort of connection.
For
Because
sure.
women love that movie. They love the play and they love the movie.
mushrooms.
But like women, like especially moms and shit, they love that. Because like that movie and the play were written for like, with my sisters in mind. It was like being surrounded by women. And I was like, how do I write like a feminist story from the perspective of these like very masculine dudes and like take them to task? And women are smart, man. They get it. They got the movie. People who were, either get it or they don't, like anything. But women are just like, I get what you're saying with that. Which is why I love women. Almost everything I make, I write for like the smartest woman in the room, and that will never do you wrong. Guys have lower standards. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I think the old adage is true. If your girl likes it, your dude is forced to like it.
Yeah, but sure.
Why do we all love Drake?
Yeah,
Because girls love Drake.
I don't really listen to Drake, dude.
I liked you until you said that. That's the
Is
craziest.
Drake your fan? I mean, what am I gonna do?
That's the
Who's
GOAT.
time? Drake?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, sure, okay. I think I just missed out on Drake. I'm too old for Drake.
Dude, what are you, 31?
But doesn't everybody make fun of Drake, or does he like legit
No,
people?
I'm not going to take
Do you like Drake?
slander. This is insane.
I'm not slandering him. He's a great musician.
Dude, all you do
He's
is
just
like
not my
listen to
thing.
Eddie Money and weird shit like that.
Eddie Money's cool.
I'll get you guys on
I think look, man, I think you probably, Drake has more like, there were impactful moments in your life where Drake was the soundtrack to your life. I just didn't have
What's going on right now?
There you go. Right. Oh shit, we got to talk about that. Yeah, we can turn the microphones off.
Anyway. All right, we got to wrap it up. This is how we start and end the show. Thank you again. This was a blast, man.
Thank you, man.
We'll talk about therapy after this.
Sounds good.
So this is how we start and end the episode. I'm going to say it once. Make sure you execute on the first try. You got to say, hi, your name, and this is my golden hour. Directly after no break, hi, your name, and that was my golden hour.
Okay. You got it.
You can slate to the camera if you'd like.
Hi, I'm John Pollono, and this is my golden hour. Hi, I'm John Pollono. That was my golden hour.
Was that? I think you got it. Yeah, that was
All right,
great.
cool. That was
Appreciate
easy.
it. Thank you.
You set it up. I was terrified.